request, I'm going to do a video on the illusion of the scarcity of money. This is going to be really complicated for some to follow, so hold on a second. It's like a mirror. Everything's backwards. That's a little better. So we're going to dive into this. Some mentions, some things that I'd like to mention before I get into it is I'm going to be going over an article called The Cause and Effect of Money Scarcity. I'm not going to go over the whole article, I'll just go over a little bit. So maybe like the first key point of it. And then I would like to talk about Dennett. He's a philosopher, but he's also studies Darwinian science. He does a great many things. He was actually one of the 4 horsemen of atheism. There he is. But he did an intrinsic inversion seminar on TED Talks called Cute, Sexy, Sweet, Funny. He also did a seminar where he kind of glazed over the value of money that kind of delves into this topic, which I will leave the link for it in the description below. But the seminar is called Is Free Will an Illusion? What can cognitive science tell us? So those are some honorable mentions, and we will be delving into those. But first I need to do this because I'm crazy. But anyway, here we go. So, is there a scarcity of money? There's many that would debate this this issue in 2 different categories. There is following the economic guidelines that yes, money can become scarce because we brought it to fruition, it exists. The other side of the argument is that it is an invention of mankind, and solely an invention of mankind at that. I'll get to that in a minute. Here we go. The cause and effects of money scarcity. American populist always focused on scarcity of money. Expanding the money supply was their main goal, not usury abolition, but usury in the fundamental cause of money scarcity. It goes on to say that money scarcity is the phenomenon of insufficient liquidity in the economy to finance all possible trades. This results in permanently depressed economies. Money scarcity always has been the key issue that populists' monetary reforms wanted to solve. Ever since the Civil War, they proposed to add greenback-style debt-free United States notes to the money supply, but the call to monetize silver was even more common. That was the background of Bryan's famous "You shall not crucify labor on a cross of gold" speech, for instance. Why would it end a sentence for instance? But anyway, the guy goes into this I think of the key point. The causes of money scarcity is right here in this section. Money scarcity is caused by 3 main issues: deflation, usury, and racketeering. Deflation is obvious. Okay, usury is a constant drain on the money supply, and racketeering, manipulating the volume of money. So this is talking about how the money scarcity occurs because of faulties that exist within the economic system. And the other side of the argument, well, no, I don't know that I can get to the other side of the argument yet. This is something that Ron Paul talked about, is that he was afraid that we were going to go into an economic, what did he call it? Economic martial law. Yeah, that's what it was. And that the Federal Reserve Bank plays a big part in this. And actually, to anyone that has ever seen the documentary Zeitgeist, you'll follow along on, and especially as you subscribe to the Zeitgeist ideology of P. Joseph, who did them, then you will follow along on the other side of it, that you'll have an understanding of what I'm talking about in this space. But I do have an argument to that. So anyway, so this is how scarcity of money is an illusion. On the other side of it is that we do these things, we have deflation, which is an illusion according to the other side of the argument, usury and racketeering, which is another illusion, and deflation, which is another illusion. And this is how modern economics works, is that we live in a debt-based economy. All right, so let me go over this in a nutshell. Basically, one side of the argument that goes from economic standpoints is that here's our economic position, our economic system, and here's the reasons that money scarcity happens. The other side of the argument that money scarcity is an illusion is saying that it's a man-made concept all in and of itself. So therefore, the idea that we could actually make something that we invented, this is where it boils down to, is that money is a man-made concept. The only reason why money has any value is because we believe it to have value. So how is it that we could possibly have a scarcity of money when it's a system that we can entirely invent it? It does not exist in the natural kingdom. No other animal has a system of economics the way that we do. And then we got, we originally started from barter and trade systems, and that slowly evolved, as most things do in nature, and we're animals, so of course our systems evolved, and they evolved into something weird, which is we started going to precious metals and gems, from barter and trade to precious metals and gems to paper, and to our current system, which is called debt-based economies. And like I said, the position that money scarcity is an illusion is that we could just print a bunch of money, to which Ron Paul will argue with you, and he will argue viciously with you about it, that if you print money needlessly, aimlessly, and just distribute the wealth amongst the American population, or the population of any country which is debt-based, a debt-based society, which most of them are nowadays. We dabble and deal in foreign international trade, which is really interesting because it's like the countries are still involved. Like, as a country, we're involved in the barter and trade system, but as far as domestically, internally, we rely not off of private bankings, but public bankings. And this is where we get our debt-based economy from. And there is an argument to the ideology that money may be a man-made thing, and they present the person will present an argument that I think is pretty good. But let's get into debt-based economies. All right, here we have the diagram of how the debt-based economy works. I got this from a website. I can leave that in the link down below as well. Basically, it starts by, you have the Federal Reserve Bank going on about, well, they lend out money to the government with debt attached. The bank lends it out to another person. That person pays another person or a small company. The small company pays another company for various reasons like mortgage rates, bills, rent on property taxes. I mean, it's quite expensive, I think we all know, to run a business, even if it's small or big. But then the small business pays or not the small business, but the business that gives the small business a place to run theirs at pays their employee, which was the original lender, money for a paycheck, like work earned, and then, or money earned from work, and then they pay the bank back the money that was owed. Only it was lent out at interest or with debt attached, so the money earned back is in excess, which then goes, well, it just turns into profit. I think that's kind of a little complicated, so I figure this is the best way to show this diagram. Is the government needs, let's say, 10, yeah, we could do it that way, but $10 million. They ask the feds for 10 million, and the feds say, okay, we'll give you 10 million, but it's going to come with debt. So you will need to owe us 10 billion. In return. So the Fed, not feds, Fed, Federal Reserve Bank, is gonna make $1 billion off of this. No, you get the point. Okay, so the government requests this 10 million. The government gives it to the banks, which loan it out to the people. The people ask the bank for a $5,000 loan. And that loan, of course, comes with interest. So the bank asks back, let's just say, to make the numbers easier to deal with, 10,000. So the people, they go out and they spend the 5,000, they make the money back, they slowly pay it off, they pay off the $10,000. That gets circulated back to the government that lent out the money in the first place. And then hopefully when the government gets their return back, they get in return, hopefully, they don't have a deficit. Hopefully they have an excess is the desire. So the desire would be for this, so 19. Alright, so, they get back 19 billion as opposed to 10 billion. And so they go to pay the feds back, or the Federal Reserve Bank. They give the Federal Reserve Bank their 10 million back. Which means the government gets to keep, or earns in profit, 9 billion. Oops. which could go to the international debt, which our international debt is insane. You know, it would be something crazy like this. And actually, economists all across the board, Democrat, Republican, non-affiliated, it doesn't really matter. Every economist is going to come up with a different debt that the United States owes in international debt, or how much of a deficit that we actually have. They're all going to come up with a different number. Really, the human mind starts to break down after a certain point in dealing with numbers, that we can really comprehend you can't really comprehend what a million is. Like, I mean, I can hold this up in my hand. You say, oh, those are two things. Well, I understand two, but if you look at a crowd of people, you can't say how many people is in there just at first glance. It's ridiculous. It's a guess. It's like that game where you have like a jar of marbles and you win a prize if whoever comes the closest to guessing how many marbles is in the jar. The human mind just cannot comprehend a certain level of numbers. It just can't. But anyway, whatever the deficit is, the hope is to take a zero off that, or maybe a few zeros. And this is how debt-based economies work, and it helps us with international trade and all that sort of stuff. Alright, so that was a little bit about how our economy works. And the base of the argument that was proposed to me is money really scarce? Well, I think yes and no. I think yes, in the sense it is scarce, and this is the argument that Dennett made. Is that his? Dennett, sorry, yeah. Is that, while yes, it is a man-made construct, the effects of it, though, on our lives are very real. It's like a game that we've made real. So that's his argument to it. It's all in the work that he did, a seminar called Is Free Will an Illusion? What Can Cognitive Science Tell Us? And I really recommend checking out that seminar, because he does talk about that subject matter. He talks about how money is real. We're cognitively aware of it. Our consciousness is aware of it. It impacts us the way that it does, and you could sit there and say that yes, it is a man-made invention, therefore it is an illusion, but it is the system that we do use. So we would have to get out of that system, and I think P. Joseph does a really good job at kind of outlining a society that is more science-based in its structure. And it's a really wonderful idea. I don't know that it'll ever come fruition, though. That's the problem. So, I guess we could sit there and print an atrocious amount of money and in poverty as we know it. But it's so ingrained in our society, the idea of us actually being able to go outside the confines of what we've already made as far as economics goes. I don't think that's a really realistic approach. I would like to see it. I mean, it's possible, but if it's going to happen, it's definitely not going to happen within our lifetime. But it's not impossible. I should say that. It's improbable, but not impossible, that we could have a society that it does not involve economics, that is the science-based societal structure, which would be awesome. It's very ideal. Like I said, very improbable. And that's kind of the thing that Dennis brings up, and like I said, I really recommend that you watch it, because he does gloss over it, but he does a really good job. And he's very, very intelligent, and I would consider him to be a very reputable source. Other than that, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, yes, so the powers that be, the top percentage, the top tier people making money in our economy, it seems to be that, from what I've seen, they actually are the worst on our economy, because they don't really produce any kind of debt. So that kind of sucks. They just suck up money. They get extra tax breaks, particularly from the conservative people in our politics. And then they also sit on money. They don't really spend it. They don't really produce debt out of it. They don't pay debt. They don't take on debt. So it doesn't really stimulate the government's economics and what it owes to the Federal Reserve Bank, which, if you watch Zeitgeist, you know that the Federal Reserve Bank there's not anything actually federal about it. Apparently it's a private institution. It's actually true. It is a private institution. But if you haven't seen Zeitgeist, I would recommend checking that out. I will have to agree with Dennis on that one, though. I like P. Joseph's, what he did in Zeitgeist. Like I said, it's very ideal, very improbable. People will not let go of the economic standard that we have. I think one thing that would be a step in the right direction, though, is to look at things ethically. For instance, we could expand on the technology of desalination of ocean water so that it is drinkable. Right now we could have engineers work on making it go further distances, because right now we just can't get it to a very far distance. If we can make ocean water drinkable, that would solve a lot of water shortages and drinkable water problems on the globe. There's things from the Center of Disease Control, the CDC. There are things that we could be putting extra special attention towards that. These are things that I would consider to be not having a monetary value. It's for the betterment of mankind and our survival. And let's face it, the Earth itself is finite. So to keep our best interest in mind as the survival of our species, it'd be pretty important to try and focus on what science can offer and how to expand it, and not just that, engineers as well. We need more ingenuity. We need better ingenuity. We need to expand on it as much as possible. And we can do this in the health bracket as well. And I know a lot of people out there are anti-GMO, but really GMOs are not that horrible. Yes, there's evil companies like Monsanto's. However, genetically modified organisms has actually helped mankind and ultimately the world. It has saved lives. The more our population grows, a non-GMO world will not be able to sustain itself on non-GMOs. It just won't. GMO, you probably have actually never eaten a non-GMO apple in your lifetime. I know you could probably go to a store and it'll say non-GMO, and it's non-GMO to the best of their ability. The original apples that actually grew on the earth were disgusting. They were very bitter, and there's only 2 original apple trees left in the entire world. Only 2 of them. If you were to eat an apple off of one of these original apple trees, it would not be the taste that you have come to know as apple flavored whatsoever. It would not be sweet. So, that being said, mankind has really been playing with genetic engineering a long time ago. This is not really genetic engineering, it's just genetically modifying through selective breeding. We've done it with dogs, we've done it with cats, we've done it with a multitude of animals. What makes you think we haven't? We have even done it with, there's a well-known plant we've done this with, marijuana. The marijuana that people consume today, the medical marijuana, the marijuana that exists in other states, these are all genetically modified organisms, as they were subjected to controlled breeding to get a stronger, better hybrid of its counterpart. So we're kind of speeding up evolution, I guess, in a sense. But the results of it are really great, because the apples that we do have today, GMOs maybe not so, non-GMOs maybe not so much, but GMO apples They're more luscious, they have more fruit, they have more content, they're capable of feeding more, and produce more. And you find that a lot with genetically modified organisms. And, things like that. Technologies that progress our society in a sense that we can survive on a finite planet, I think are good ideas. And we need to expand on those and stop limiting ourselves to economics. That would be great. Unfortunately, you've got a lot of people out there that just cannot let go of greed. They cannot let go of the concept of money. They cannot let it go. And I think it's a shame to put a monetary value on human life, but it's been done. What are you going to do about it? The only thing you can really do is try and point out to people that it is fundamentally flawed and hope for the best. And really kind of like I said, I go in the direction of just trying to say, okay, yes, money, but human survival. So, is the scarcity of money an illusion? Yes and no. Yes, literally, in reality, with logic and critical thinking and full play, it is a system that we designed, and we could get rid of it should we so choose, but not very probable that it's going to happen, and that it's so ingrained in our system and how we make things work that it's probably here to stay until we keep evolving forward, and it evolves into something else, and to then which evolves into something else, and then maybe eventually somewhere down the line we might have a society that has a completely different economic system that we have not even thought of today. Who knows? You can't really play on future dwellings. But for right now, in the time that we have, no, it is not possible to just get rid of money and get rid of the idea of classism. It's not going to happen. So for us, in our time, in our timeline, it's very real. Have a gloomy Gothic day. And one more thing before I go. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And with that, I'm out.